Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of the Ville Chillin' Podcast. Today, we had the opportunity of chilling with Chris McConnell. He is a local Louisville musician, actor. He's done some comedy. He's got quite a story to tell. So hang out for a few minutes, and we're gonna let him tell you. All right. So today we are joined by a local Louisville music artist. All his music is recording live using old school techniques, looping individual sounds. We're chilling with Chris McConnell. So how you doing, man? How you been?
Good, baby. How are you all, man?
Doing awesome.
Welcome to the show.
Yeah.
Thank you for the introduction. Very cool, man.
No worries, man. We had to give you something. We're happy to have you here. So just ready to get
Likewise,
started.
I feel like I should have a hat on too, or and an over ear mics. That's what I need.
Yes.
This squad.
It's just our usual setup. So, it's you add a little contrast. It's probably needed instead of just our usual thing,
That's right.
So I guess to get started, because I know, the main promo here is the show, your upcoming show. So why don't you just let people know like some general info, date, time, place, theme, that kind of stuff.
Yeah. Sure. Thanks, man. Well, everything is based off of Friday the 13th coming up in October. That's really that simple. I saw that date and I figured it would be a perfect time to do a show. And I figured I could make it, why not spice it up? Let's make it fun. So I'm going to play 13 instruments for Friday the 13th on a live show. We're going to go down a fun path. Each instrument's going to take us further and further down that path,
Right.
And in union with that, I have a piece I'm going to put out that day as well. Another live loop that I made. At this point, it happened 3 years ago.
Okay.
And it involves going to the crossroads in Mississippi, which was a hell of a time.
I like that. That's awesome. Cool, man. Cool. And so that show is at Cave Valley Cava. That's right. October the 13th.
Cave Valley Cava.
Yep.
I've never actually been there, which is, I'm sorry to say, but it looks like it's sort of a house, which is awesome. So it'll be like a house party vibe.
Yep.
Super cool. I've got Gentleman Pig playing, which is a fantastic group. I did a show with them. Another very cool local venue around here on the Indiana side called the Enchanted Forest. Have either of you all been there?
I've
No.
never been there.
Oh, it's a beautiful like outdoor stage. You've got like trees right up on the side and a huge back screen, which I think he had a game of Mario Kart playing while I was playing, which is cool.
Awesome.
It's a great vibe. But I met those gentlemen there. They're sort of an instrumental duo. Fantastic. And then I've got a buddy of mine who goes under the name Perseverance and Attraction as well, who does sort of an electronic show. Super great guys. $6, fun
Yeah.
price. What are you doing on Friday the 13th? What are you doing?
Yes.
Exactly. And I mean, it is perfect timing that it falls in October because Halloween's right there. And I mean, Louisville, of course, is huge for Halloween. Everybody in Louisville loves Halloween. It's like the
Yes.
festivities start on November 1st and it's ready just to go all year. So
Has the zombie walk happened in a while?
I think they stopped doing it. I haven't seen it in a while, but that was always a really cool lead up to it too.
We used to go there every
Right.
year. It was fun.
Yeah, and it would always start really, or I don't want to say super early, but it felt like it would be in August or something like an earlier time of the year. We're like, oh, okay, we're in spooky season now. Let's get it.
Yeah, it was like a fall kickoff type thing. Like once fall started coming around, it was right there. So yeah,
Very cool.
Yeah, that was always fun. So I think the date's pretty awesome too. So I guess with that, you mentioned the Crossroads video or piece that you're going to be putting out. So you want to tell us a little bit more about that? Go ahead and talk about that.
Sure. So I've got this piece coming out. It's going to be called the Ars Diabli, which is a super sick line that I got from Hell. There's a part of that movie where the main character is introduced to a library of books, specifically on the devil. And he says, yes, the Ars Diaboli is what he describes it as. And I was nabbed that title right there. Beautiful title right there. But I always had this idea of going to the crossroads. Which I hope most of your listeners are familiar with the story of Robert Johnson and the idea of one selling their soul at the crossroads to become a sick guitarist or a musician, a legend, if you will. I always liked that story and was always fascinated with that place. And I'm a big cinephile. And I found a location in Mississippi that arguably is the crossroads where there are several films filmed there at the same spot. And I wanted to go to it. I wanted to go there. I guess there's kind of, you could say it was kind of calling me. And I'd had an idea for a sound, which you'll get to hear once I put the piece out for a while as well, that I wanted to bring back something that I hadn't heard. I'll give you a little hint. It goes like this. Fun,
Nice.
fun little sound that I wanted to popularize again, or not popularize. I just wanted to play with, I guess it was the same way it was calling to me. And all this started to mash together into me riffing with a friend of mine who's also in the piece about how I want to go there. And he was like, let's do it. So we set a date. And sometimes that's all it takes, I guess, to set yourself onto a journey. So we set a date to go do this. And immediately I decided, okay, well, I'm going to record this song idea that I've got, this live loop. Also for your listeners, so all of the music that I put out is totally live. It's in one take and it's happening right in front of you. I'm using a loop station to just record a piece of something. And if you're watching a lot of my video work, what happened pretty organically is I'd be making these songs and you have a 1, 2, 3, 4 of me recording something, but then you've got that 4-bar space maybe while it loops. And then that's just me sitting there like holding a guitar or like awkwardly moving to the drums or something. And so I figured I could fill that space. I do videography all the time. I like to be in front of the camera and behind the camera. That's just how I work. And so I decided to tell stories in that space. So I had this idea for the song. I know I'm going to go to this place that I can create this story, this visual. So we start working on writing this thing out, and I jump into the piece. And usually when I do these loops, you'll have the song and structure created, or I'll create the bones of it. And sometimes leave space to record, like see what happens organically in the moment.
Yep.
And what ends up happening is I'll do a whole bunch. I'll end up doing 5 to 10, could be a bunch. Sometimes way less. Sometimes anymore. I try to have it really hashed out before I get to the point of I'm going to record this. So it's pretty like solid. But this one, just one take, one loop. That was the one. Like super creepy. Like awesome. Doesn't usually happen like that, but it just flew out, and I was like, that was very cool. So that set us off on this journey to go to the crossroads, which is fun because have you ever been to Mississippi?
I've driven through it, and it was a long time ago.
Never been.
Yeah, I hadn't either. I'd never been there. It is a just beautiful, scenic like landscape of the South, but kind of desolate, super desolate, kind of sad.
Yeah,
but undeniably beautiful. And there's 2 different places that kind of claim the crossroads. There's Rosedale, and I think it's Clarksdale or Clarksdale. Thank you. Sorry, God, I don't want to get corrected. So we stopped at the Clarksdale one, which was nice. That's sort of, I'd say, the more touristy spot where they've got a nice burger joint. I think that was right there. Solid, very solid. And then we headed towards Rosedale, where there was more of the lore. And then finally, this location that I'd found that was in the cut, if you will, to shoot this scene. We got out there. There was a couple farmers we ran into who were oddly understanding. They were like, yeah, people come here. Like we weren't the first people to do this, like by far. They were like, they essentially sat and had a beer with us, like shot the shit. But it worked out because I wanted to shoot a lot of the stuff in golden hour and into the evening. And so we did. And I learned my lesson as well with shooting in nature. If you're out in the middle of God's land and the sun starts to set and you set up a spotlight, everything within God, Miles
Yeah.
just was on top of us, and it was a miserable situation.
Yeah.
But we used it. I used it. It was miserable. So we I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say, is that some of what you see in your video that I saw, the return from the crossroads? Is that a
Yes.
teaser?
Yes, exactly.
Okay.
Yeah. When I made that teaser, I tried to put a bunch of clips of every single piece that I've got sort of in the gun, ready to go, to sort of give everyone a peek of what's to come.
There you go.
And actually, what's really cool, what I thought was cool about that teaser was there's a thin story that's being told over that.
Mhm.
I think it's in Sumerian. It's in an ancient language, but it's the oldest story I could find of a person going to the crossroads. So I
Okay.
put it over the story. I didn't. I like the. I almost like the idea that you can't understand what language it is. It's
Yeah, I spent
cooler
some
to me.
time
That's
looking
always
at
been
it.
there.
I was trying to like figure out, see if I could tell, and I couldn't tell. So I'm glad you said something because I was
Yeah,
wondering what it was in.
very cool little puzzle piece. So we finished my buddy's mad that I put him through hell, like quite literally almost. And we're we're close to New Orleans. It's only a couple hours further south to get to New Orleans.
Mhm.
And he's like, why don't we just go down there, make a trip of this, make a couple days of this. So after all of that we just went through, I was like way more than down to do that. So we go down there, we get down to New Orleans, and I told him, I was like, though, before we do anything, I have an idea. I want to go to a voodoo priestess, because I know they do like readings and stuff. I want to see what they say, just because this is a crazy journey we've been on anyway. I don't know. I just want to see if they,
Right.
maybe they'll give me some kind of cool read or something. So I'm not going to lie. We did stop somewhere before and I had a hurricane. So it wasn't the first stop. It wasn't,
Gotcha.
yeah, we ended up somewhere else,
Fun
but
trip,
we did. We ended
anyways.
up, yeah, but we regrouped. We were like, all right, now we're back on the journey. And we went to I think it's called Madame Marie Laveau's House of Voodoo or something like that. That's where we went. And I just rolled up to them, and I took my phone and had it stuck like sort of like in my pocket like this on record, because I wanted to record it all,
Of course.
just to see like what she'd say. Sorry, lady. Now you're finding out. But um, I set up a bone reading is what they do. They do these things called bone readings, which is wild. And you go into the place, and I hadn't told her anything. I hadn't told her anything about me other than just I would like to do a reading. And so she takes me into this back room, and got a burlap sack, and it's full of bones. And she's like, "These are your bones. These are from your ancestors. Um, you know, this is your fate." And basically, like, handed it to me. It was like, "You need to pick some out." There's a sort of a whole selection process going on with the bones, but we do a drop. He's like, "You're going to drop them on the floor, and it's going to sort of create like a read for her." And so I do it, and she gives me one of those sort of theatrical like, oh, like she starts giving me the show, and I was
Yeah.
like, okay, right. But then she zones back in and she goes, "You're sort of stepping over a crossroads right now," and I got chills up my
Chills.
spine. I was
Yeah.
like, and I think in the recording I even say something like, yeah, it's cool. I like try to play it off, but in my head I was like, no way, no way, this lady just said that. So ultimately, I took that little clip of her saying that, because I had it, and I put it at the front of this piece that I'm going to put out on Friday the 13th as well.
That is awesome.
Crazy stuff, man.
That's
Crazy stuff.
awesome. That is awesome. It's wild how stuff like that comes together too, man.
Truly, truly.
Sweet. All
When she
right.
said
That's my Friday the 13th, the Ars Diabli Crossroads piece coming out, baby.
Love that. When she said that, I wouldn't have been able to hold it together. I would have been,
Dude,
would have been laughing.
I know. I really was. I was trying everything in my heart. I was like, oh my, I cannot believe he said that. That's nuts.
Right.
Crazy to me. Still crazy to think about. Yeah.
Yeah, it sounds like it was a fun journey though. I mean, a lot of work. I mean, it seems like a lot goes into it. And so to kind of take a step back, now that we've talked about that, how would you be interested in like sharing a little bit of your background? How did you get a start in music and video and stuff like that?
All of it, man. Sure. I always say I started acting in first grade. I was in a Christmas play. I got robbed. A man stole my bread,
Oh
and
man.
Jesus, I was devastated. I remember I had the burlap thing on. He takes my bread, and it was real bread too. And the child playing Jesus told me to forgive him, just forgive him. And then we broed out, and that was my debut in the entertainment world.
That is
That's awesome.
And then I went to Catholic schools, so I did the choir, I did all of that sort of uh, thing for early music, the recorder, which I will be playing on Friday the 13th as well. Come check that out. Hot cross buns. It's going to be great. Busting it back out. It's still alive. That instrument still has some interest. It's there. So I always played in bands. I've always been I was always in the rock and metal groups largely. When I got into high school, I was in jazz group. So I played jazz guitar as well. And I got into college, and all of this happened pretty organically. I was playing in bands pretty much all through my 20s. I played with a group called Lifelines, as well as many other groups that I did. They were sort of for your local. If you're from this local scene, they were called They Came Bearing Arms. That was those boys.
I didn't hear
This is
them,
back in
but-
that metalcore era.
Gotcha.
Back when they did a show at Waverly Hills, if you remember that, like sort of that era
Oh, that's
of
cool.
Okay, I remember like
the new wave of American heavy metal. That was it, dude. It was all about it. And then I got into college. I played in, like I said, a couple of bands. I was trying to do comedy at the time. I took comedy very seriously, but ultimately found that I like doing more than that. I was pretty much investing a lot of myself into doing that. I was doing sketch work and stand up, but ultimately decided I wanted to do more than just that. And every night, I would come home and I would play with the loop station. I have played in a lot of bands where I've been just a like sort of lead and rhythm guitarist, and I would use a loop to kind of create a bass for us to go off of. And as I got older and got when I first got one of my own place, I got a piano. I got an 88 key piano,
Okay.
and I loved it. I loved playing it. My grandparents had a piano, but that was the only time I ever really got to play it. And that just started to make me want to learn other instruments. So I started to pull in a lot of other instruments. I had a violin as well. I should also step back a little further. I'm left-handed. I'm a left-handed musician. It's really hard for me to find any instruments. It's a nightmare, frankly. I just went into Guitar Center the other day and was shocked to find that there was only one left-handed guitar. It kind of hurt. It hurt me, man.
hey, I can relate. I'm left-handed, so it can be a struggle with everything. It feels like
Right, truly.
definitely.
Not our world, man. It's not our
Yeah.
world, but that's okay. It gives us that chip on the shoulder, the that edge, I guess. So I was always doing that with loop stations every evening, and I started to play shows out again, and I started to busk doing it. I started to go out on near 4th Street. I'm sorry, the walking bridge. So I'm trying to say.
Okay.
I would go down there and busk.
Yeah.
I did that just last year too. It's still fun to do. But I figured since I worked in video during the day, I should start recording these. I do it every night anyway, so I started recording them. And at first, it was much more of a challenge to myself to see if I could do something. Could I do one a week? Could I do 2 or 3, or whatever? And then, like I said, eventually it started to evolve to where I would get visually bored with the idea of you just watching me. Once I play something, wait for a second, and then me play something else and wait. Unless you're riffing off it. There's a reason for you to be seeing a musician
Right.
playing. I thought I should tell you a story, or I got an opportunity to tell a story. So I started jumping deep down that rabbit hole, deep.
No,
And I started, yeah. That's how all this came together, very organically. Just growing with it, never stopping.
I'm not musically inclined at all. At least not like with instruments or anything. I love music, but I don't play anything. But again, when we talked briefly before, I mentioned, I love rap and hip hop and everything. And so the loop station and the drum sounds obviously plays into that because that's how all that started. So
Oh yeah.
it literally is how modern day beat making got its start. So it's cool to hear that you play all the instruments, but then you also just wanted to incorporate something different. I think it's definitely different. It's not something you see every day. And I
Right.
was telling him before that I heard like Led Zeppelin and a little bit of like Judas Priest is what came to mind when I was watching a couple of your things. So,
Rob Halford. breaking the law, breaking the law.
Exactly.
Yeah.
um, so,
Hell
and
yeah, man.
you've talked a lot about the music videos too, and it sounds like you've kind of already answered it. You do pretty much all of the work yourself. You
Hmm.
do the
I do
acting, the editing, the graphics, whatever your props. I mean,
everything. Yeah. If unless I always joke, I everything you hear when I do live shows, I'm doing right there, unless it's like a sound effect, like rain or something, because I'm not God,
right.
unless people want me to be, but no, you know, and same with the visuals. I just think, I think about being an artist in this day and age and what that means, and we have the capability of creating an orchestra. With one finger, you can hit a button and boom, an orchestra appears. Like, so what do you do with that when we have the capability of doing that? And on the opposite side of like the film, like the world, the visual world, you've never had more access to pro level equipment than before. So we have the power of God at our fingertips. We can search for anything you need. You can be an expert in anything in 10 minutes. So what's stopping you from executing your vision? What if you're an artist and you have a vision, there's nothing to get in your way. And I know that that's hokey. I feel like people say stuff like that all the time. Like, don't let
No.
things get in your way, man. But
It's
you
awesome.
truly can learn all the skills. And I think artists that do that, you're reclaiming your power. You don't have to worry about checking anybody's boxes on what you want to make. Just make what you want to make. You can do that. You can do that. And I think it's important to show people want to see what you're doing.
They do.
That's one of my, I love hip hop too. And I love DJs, but I don't want live instrumentation to go away either. That was, I guess, definitely part of the idea of playing live, doing using all these instruments, is because I always end up people asking me about them afterwards, and that's good. I want people to keep playing instruments. I don't want that to go away. Can't lose everything to the robots.
Right, that live experience, you can't replace that. Like,
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's awesome. And I kind of thought so by watching some of them that it you pretty much did it all yourself, but it's awesome to hear you talk about it. And I completely agree that like in this day and age, there's nothing holding anybody back except the will to do it. Because I've seen people do crazy things with like just an old phone, an old Android or things like that. So I've always been a nerd in the computer sense. So I love hardware. I've done some like coding and stuff. So um, I do
You do some C sharp, C plus. What you doing?
no, I've done some JavaScript and stuff, but I haven't done that in a long time. I work in data daily though, so I do a little bit of SQL, run some SQL scripts and stuff. So that's like my
Big
day
data.
job. Yeah, like somebody says we need to figure out a report to pull this stuff. So it's just that I'm completely self-taught though too. So that was my point with it, is that I don't have a formal education in any of it. I didn't go to college, but I had access to the internet. So I completely relate to your sentiment when you're saying don't let anything hold you back. So it's
Yeah, man. That's
technology
beautiful to hear too.
technology has opened the world of capabilities to a lot of people.
and where
So
it feels like a lot of people kind of feel like artists feel overwhelmed or something. I think it's cool how you've like embraced it, and a lot of
Mhm.
artists, I feel like, kind of put themselves in a box to where they're just gonna focus on music or acting or video, where you've made sure to
Yeah.
not put
I'm trying to
yourself
do it
in
all,
everything.
baby.
Yes, I love it. It's awesome.
I like doing it. I like it. There's also a certain, this is weird, but like from a shooting perspective, there's a certain advantage to being in your own stuff, because you know what you're trying to achieve, and you can sort of maneuver the camera in ways maybe that it's like be kind of awkward to do with a person you don't know, or acting with or shooting with. That's not to say I don't love. I do collaborate with people all the time. I just like having something that's mine too. I think it feels important. I don't know. Artistically, it feels important to have something that's yours, just because we can these days, baby.
Right.
Yeah.
You actually reminded me of a story. We don't have to get into this, but
No, go for it. Feel free.
you were talking about college and like how you didn't learn any of this stuff at school. And I'm actually not I'm not like very I took jazz in high school, but I'm not very classically taught as a musician. I've pretty much taught everything myself. Certainly, every instrument outside of guitar has been of my own volition. But when I was in college, I was at U of L. Right, this is weird. This is a weird thing that happened, and I want to say maybe my second semester as a freshman, I was debating on maybe I should just go to music school, because we have a good music school here. Louisville's music school is fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, maybe that would be something that I should do. Um, and so I decided to go talk to a counselor over there. And I told them that I was considering swapping into the School of Music. But the instrument that I would have to learn was violin. And I was asking if it was possible, if they thought for me to be able to pass the audition to get into music school by next fall, having never played the violin, coming from guitar. Like, did they think that that was possible to do? And the lady was immediately like accommodating. She was like, absolutely. Like, if you dedicate yourself to this and you've been a musician your whole life, there's no reason why you couldn't do that. And I was relieved. It's like, that's great to hear. Okay, well, um, I was about to start asking her directions on like, what should I be studying? Who should I be, jumping into techniques to learn? And I was like, but first thing I got to do is I got to find a left-handed violin. And she stopped and was like, come again? What did you say? And I was like, I gotta get a left-handed violin. And she was like, and you want to play in an orchestra? And I said, yeah. I was like, that'd be what we do here, right? And she was like, I'll tell you right now, if you're a left-handed violinist, you'll never play in an orchestra. And I was like,
Oh man.
what are you saying? And she was like, in a world of sound, they care about the visual of one guy pointing this way as opposed to everyone else pointing this way.
Yeah.
And she basically told me, if you want to be in an orchestra, you're going to have to be the lead. You have to be the guy all the way out there, or you'll never be in an orchestra. They'll never have you sitting there like that. Now, I don't know if that's true or not, but it completely discouraged me out of joining the School of Music. And in a lot of ways, I guess, encouraged me into doing what I do now. Maybe just make it work on your own.
Yeah, I mean, who knows what you would be doing? Yeah, who knows what you would be doing if you hadn't dealt with that? I mean, it's always hard to hear something like that, but it always builds us. We always come back and we're like, okay, no, I'm going to show you that I can still do something.
Especially that emotions of up and down too, where she was like, oh yeah, you can learn no problem. And then when she says you're left-handed, it was just crushed, man.
I know. I was devastated, and then I saw that "just do it" meme from Shia LaBeouf, and I turned my life around, dude.
Yes.
Changed a lot of people's lives. Yeah.
Yes.
I turned it all around after that.
Oh man, that's awesome. So
yeah, wild.
I do want to kind of transition real quickly, just because I know you've mentioned acting, and I think you've done some acting and some stuff. So, what's your experience with that?
Sure, I was just in a sort of background and second unit on. Well, I don't know if we're allowed to talk about SAG projects.
Well,
I'm not a SAG actor though, but I'm no scab. I just did a shoot over here. There's been a couple of bigger projects that shot here. There was a bigger production shooting a wrestling story that was here that I got to be on for a bunch of days, and everyone was awesome. It was really cool. If you're from the music world, this is fun, kind of doing the SAG. It's like you're tippy-toeing around it. The guy who was the director, if you're from the music world, also owns Sumerian Records. His dad is a famous director as well. He won an Oscar for the movie Rocky. But that movie was shooting here with a whole bunch of cool people. This year, though, as well, I started doing more commercial stuff. I've never really had any interest in commercials, like advertising and stuff.
Yeah.
I love people like Bill Hicks, so I have a bad taste in my mouth about
Yes.
advertising and things. But it's it's money. It's money.
Mhm.
It's fucking money, man. I don't
Bill
know.
Hicks, yes.
Easy to do. I've done
Exactly.
some fun projects though. I'll tell you a really cool one I got to do a couple years ago. I got to be on the Discovery Channel, shooting for a show called Expedition Unknown with this dude named Josh Gates, who's a super cool dude. He's like a legit Indiana Jones guy. Like he goes around, scavenges all sorts of places, pyramids.
Gotcha.
Trying to think of another. I can't think of anything else. But I got hired to do this episode about John Dillinger, and I got cast as John Dillinger,
Okay.
which was super cool. So anytime they're like saying like John Dillinger jumped over the wall to rob the bank, I got to be the guy jumping over the thing and
That's
robbing the people or whatever. But the premise of the episode was that a map was found on, I think, the Dillinger farm or by a Dillinger family member that may or may not, it was like in John Dillinger's writing that may or may not have been like locations where possibly he left a treasure. If people don't know who John Dillinger was, he was Public Enemy #1. Johnny Depp played him in a movie. He was one of the first bank robbers with like he had a bank gang. It's a fantastic character. He's arguably why the FBI was created, because they would rob banks in one state and then cross over to another state, which at the time,
Yeah.
no one, like those states weren't talking to each other. So it's kind of forced the government to start talking to each other about like the crime that was occurring.
Right.
So the idea was that in the episode that possibly he had left some treasure on maybe the family farm and stuff like that. So I get to go and just shoot at all these places that was with John Dillinger's actual family. That was the trippiest part, is being around
Okay.
like in character as John Dillinger, and then you're just standing in front of his great nephew or whatever, and they're just like looking at you like, yeah, pretty well,
That's funny.
weird.
So you're the second person from Kentucky to play John Dillinger, then?
Yeah,
Right.
I always said if I ever met Johnny Depp, I immediately could go to that. I'd be like, hey man, we both got to play John Dillinger. And a cool thing with that too, he so we shot at the actual prison in Crown Point that he broke out of, Crown Point jail, and they sort of redid it like for that movie. It's but it's very much like a haunted place and a sort of a cool spot if you're into all that stuff. But when we shot in there, which was cool too, because it was just with a bunch of other prisoners, a bunch of people had left cigarettes around for inmates, haunted like ghost inmates to use.
Gotcha.
So I took those and we used those as like in the scene as like money and currency and stuff. Like we were like in a prison. But the way John Dillinger escaped jail sort of famously was he took a bar of soap and shimmied it into a gun, like to make it look like a gun, and like took a guy from the back and was like, get me out of here, like you're gonna let me out or whatever sort of thing. Him and a couple people escaped. Johnny Depp, he had a remake of that gun, like that creation, because I think the main one's in the museum, like for that shoot, and gifted it to the prison, and they let me use it. During the shoot, so I got to
cool.
Same one.
run around and hold that thing. And then the last brag about this is that episode peaked with them returning the car that John Dillinger broke out of that jail with. He stole the sheriff's car, which is gangster. He stole the sheriff's car. They returned that car though, and I got to drive around. I got to drive in that car. That was awesome. That was super cool. Very privileged. Super cool car. Weird experience,
awesome, man.
Cool experience.
Sounds like it, man. That's really awesome. You've definitely been a busy guy the last few years, it sounds like, but you're doing a lot of things it sounds like you love. And I mean, from what I saw of everything, like your music and everything, like I think it's pretty cool. So I say, keep doing it, keep promoting it. And yeah, I mean, I guess when your next video comes out, let us know. We can do this again.
Man. And same to you guys, man. You guys, I was telling you all when we first talked, is that I was surprised that there wasn't, I don't know, there weren't a lot of good good podcasts in this area. Like I'm not saying there aren't good podcasts, but like that were more all like sports focused or something specific. It was nice to find a podcast that was just like about the city and this area and things going on. Like refreshing to find.
Thank you.
You guys doing it, baby. You're doing it, you know?
That's kind of the hope. We hope people continue to find us. We've let all the growth kind of be organic, and it's been fun. It's taught us a lot about, Louisville and even Kentucky that, we didn't necessarily know. We've got to learn some things and just kind of dive deeper into things that you've always kind of wondered, but you've never really looked into. And it's like, well, why don't we just look into it? It's fun. And then just record it and talk about it, because other people probably don't know either. So, like all other people from Kentucky, like especially people not from Kentucky, they don't realize how many famous people are from Kentucky. Hunter S. Thompson, Johnny Depp, Muhammad Ali, Edgar Casey, all these people. So it's been a fun journey.
It has learned a lot. And I was wondering, are you a fan of Hunter S. Thompson? I feel like I've seen a couple references in your art. I didn't know if they were.
Oh yeah, man, the Gonzo God, dude.
Yes, yes.
If you look at that, you've got one of my posters put up right there. My name when I knew you had to when I needed to make a logo. I'm sorry, not on my. There you go. But beautiful. When I knew I needed to get a logo, I got this local artist around here. His name's Grant Goodwin. Mm-hmm. Sorry, Grant. I'm pretty sure I got your name correct there, baby. But he does that sort of gonzo style art, that Ralph Steadman style that I think is popularized by our boy Hunter S. Thompson. That's the art that this area is known for. So I'm not afraid to represent that. And that's what I want to represent. So absolutely, dude. I fucking love Hunter S. Thompson.
Awesome.
Big fan.
Love it.
Make a beast of yourself. That's that was the foreword of that's the foreword of Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas.
Yeah.
Make a beast of yourself. Takes away the pain of being a man.
Yes. Yeah. Hunter, we are definitely huge Hunter S. Thompson fans too. So I think, was that our first People of Kentucky episode?
I think so.
I think it was. And we definitely enjoyed it and decided to just keep it going,
Yeah. What a life that guy lived, right?
Right. It was definitely wild.
He's a good writer.
Yeah, man. I think unless you have anything specific, any other stories or anything you wanted to share or bring up,
No, man. I appreciate your all's time. I really do. Well, it's great to do this. Like I said, I'm happy for you guys too, man. Keep doing this.
Do you have a show before the 13th too, though, right?
I do. Yes. Thank you. I was gonna say, I guess I can plug real quick. I got a show at Camp Social Club with this cool dude named Animal Weapon out of, I think he's from Raleigh, North Carolina. The Carolina guys coming in. Camp, great place, September 21st. I'll be playing as well. And then, of course, Friday the 13th. I don't know what you're doing, but come do the thing with me. We'll have a good time. Yeah. I'm going to play 13 instruments for you. It's going to be a great time. Everybody will have a good time.
We're going to try to be there, I think.
Please.
Hopefully scheduling works out and everything, but we're definitely going to make it. We're going to try to be.
Yeah, I looked at the place. It's pretty tight. I think it'll be a cool, little tight show.
Sometimes that's the best, though. It's a good sound, a good vibe. So.
Oh yeah, man. Next time I come on, I'll wear a hat, dude. I'll have my hat, and I'll have my over the phone or my over the earphones too. I'll be ready.
We'll be ready.
All right, man.
Let's go.
Well, I guess sorry, what was that?
Oh no, I was gonna say after this, I've got I could tell you about the next place I'm gonna shoot at here real soon. It's a cool Kentucky place.
Okay.
Tell you about it.
All right. So I guess as far as the upcoming show, and we definitely covered a good bit of your history. It's definitely, I find it fascinating because it's, especially music, because there's always a heavy influence coming from somewhere or a lot of somewheres, and so it's cool to hear the story behind that. So definitely check them out. October the 13th and then September 21st, and yeah, I guess you got anything that you want to add, man?
No, we really appreciate it. It's been awesome.
I appreciate you guys, man. I do. This is awesome.
All right.